Hello. Hey, friends. I'm going to give it a second for things to catch up. It takes a minute for our live stream to hit. But if you're here and you see us, say hello so we'll know about it. All righty. I believe we are live. Welcome, one and all, to Mediavine's Teal Talk, where we bring together experts from around the industry to provide free education, all in the pursuit of helping content creators build sustainable businesses. I am your host, Jenny Guy, and it is my pleasure to be here with you today. So you can pretty much describe the content creation industry a lot like we describe the weather in Oklahoma. If you don't like it right now, just wait 5 minutes. Exactly. Sherry knows. As all of us who've been around for any length of time in the industry, one of the only constants in this game is change. We can always count on it, right? Whether it's a new social media platform grabbing everyone's attention or a major algorithm shift. This is a constantly changing industry. And today we're here to talk about a major change that's headed our way with a wonderful guest to guide us. Love it or hate it, Google Analytics 4, or GA4, as most people call it, is coming. Universal Analytics, the measurement system we've all grown accustomed to, will be officially sunset by Google on July 1st, and we'll all be using GA4. Quickly, from a Mediavine standpoint, our engineers are putting the finishing touches on the GA4 integration with the Mediavine Dashboard. Testing is happening. We're starting to roll that out. It will be ready for everyone well in advance of the deadline, and detailed instructions will be provided for all Mediavine publishers on the migration. But in the meantime, please continue running Universal Analytics along GA4, but we'll talk more about that in a second. But today's episode, we're going to be focusing on how to make Google Analytics 4 really work for you and your business. And we have the perfect guest to show us the way. I'm so pleased to welcome Sherry Smothermon-Short back to a Mediavine Live. Hello, Sherry.
Hey, Jenny. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to share what I've learned about GA4.
It is always a pleasure to have you. While I'm going to talk all the wonderful things about Stupendous Sherry, please give us your thoughts and feels, maybe an angry emoji, about how you're feeling about GA4 in the comments. In the meantime, let's hear about Sherry. Sherry Smothermon-Short is a self-described, multi-passionate entrepreneur in the online space. She is a blogger, course creator, consultant, and Etsy shop owner. She owns and runs 3 blogs: Cub Scout Ideas, Painless Blog Analytics, and The Facts Vault. Her decade of blogging has taught her how to use data to grow and improve her blog. She loves sharing what she has learned with other content creators by providing information, resources, training, and services. In addition, Sherry owns 3 Etsy shops. Sherry and her husband, Scott, have 2 sons, Parker, who is a sophomore at Winthrop University, and Grant, who is a high school junior. They live in Nashville, Tennessee. In her spare time, Sherry loves to read or watch mysteries. Sherry, yay, we are so excited.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Definitely. And we're going to dive right in. Wanted to say, if anybody has any questions for Sherry or myself on GA4, drop them into the comments and we'll see if we can cover them. But in the meantime, let's just dive right in, kick off at the beginning. Please give us an overview of Google Analytics 4. We want the good, the bad, and the ugly.
All righty. Well, GA4 is here to stay. I mean, I know it's a big change for us, but it is definitely something that is, I mean, it's here. So we're going to have to deal with it. The good, there's so much actionable information in Google Analytics 4, things that we didn't have in Universal that bloggers can take advantage of. So I think that that's the good part. The bad part is that, Google's still tweaking stuff a little bit, here and there, because they want to make sure that they get everything right on their end. So occasionally we have some things that pop up like that. The other kind of bad thing is that there are some terms that mean different things in GA4 than they met in Universal Analytics, and also some things that don't mean what you think they mean. So I think that's, that's a little bit of an issue for folks. And I think the ugly is, for bloggers, is not so bad, but I think we've heard so much horrible stuff about it that really has to do with e-commerce sites. That's the thing we have to keep in mind, is that analytics is built for all websites, not just for content sites. It's for everybody, e-commerce and the whole 9 yards. So I think that's the good, bad, and the ugly.
Thank you for that great overview. And I know it is always very shocking how to that we are not the center of every decision that Google makes. What
I
the heck?
know. What's up with that?
Rude.
You know?
So rude. Okay, we're getting a lot of feedback. We're getting some scary emojis. We understand.
Uh-huh.
We've got Gina. She shared a really interesting thought, which is that the transition seems a lot like
Mhm.
going from the classic editor in WordPress to Gutenberg blocks, which, yeah,
Mhm.
it is.
Yep.
And I don't know, we made it through that. And most
Yeah.
people are using Gutenberg blocks and finding advantages there. So we will make it through, and we're here to help. Sherry's here to help.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the main differences between Universal Analytics and GA4?
Well, I think the main one is that, and there's probably a lot of people that don't realize this. This is not an interface upgrade. This is a totally new data model. Like throw everything from Universal out the door and start again kind of data model. So I think that's what's causing a little bit of a lack of understanding about what it is and how it works. It's just because people think, just assume that it's an upgrade, and it's really not. It's a totally different thing. There's new metrics, there's new definitions. Obviously, the interface is new. The interface leaves a lot to be desired. So, again, I think we're getting some really cool and awesome things that we didn't have in Universal.
Good to hear. We're getting some. I love always. Our audience is always so great because they always like precipitate the questions that we're going to be
Yeah.
asking. So Ellen will be hitting you on that question about the different results between Universal Analytics and GA4. So I think one of the biggest record scratch moments for many people when they dip their toes into GA4 is the shift to events over sessions and
Mhm.
page views.
Mhm.
Can you explain what that means and how that reporting differs?
Sure. We all know what a session is. It's just, a session. Events are very different. Part of what GA4 is trying to do is really track the user behavior on your site. And again, a lot of that is to benefit the e-commerce sites, for them to know step by step what a person's doing on their site. So an event is something that somebody has done on your site. It could be a session start, it could be a page view, it could be a click. If they do an outbound click, that's considered an event. If they scroll down to 90% of your page, that's a click. And there's those are kind of the ones that I think bloggers are going to look at, but there's a few others that make me chuckle. For example, if you earn or spend virtual currency in my game I'm playing on my iPad, that is considered an event, and that I just think that's funny. But again, I can understand why an app developer would want to know that kind of stuff. So those are, I think, and that's why it's a little bit difficult, I think, at first to get used to that, because it is tracking a whole lot more things than Universal ever did.
So more data, and like you said,
Mhm.
some of it is really centered and targeted specifically for the e-commerce business owners.
Right, right.
Do you have any other thoughts on why this is happening? What
Oh, yeah.
Google?
In my mind, there's two huge reasons why Google shifted to this. First of all, is privacy. I mean, they were getting in a lot of trouble in a lot of countries because they just didn't have the privacy things in place to meet the privacy laws that are being passed everywhere. So that's the huge one. The second one is, you got to remember, Google or Universal Analytics came out in 2012. It was about the time that I started blogging. So if you think about how we use the internet then and how we use the internet now, it is totally different. And a good example, my older son was a wrestler, and wrestling shoes do not last an entire wrestling season. So I was constantly Googling, most durable wrestling shoes. Well, I might look at that on my computer, and then I realize I've got to go pick my kid up. And so I hop in the car and drive over to the school, and then realize they're not done yet, which always happen. And so I might finish that transaction on my phone. I may actually purchase those shoes on my phone. And so knowing that the Sherry who bought the shoes on her phone and the Sherry who searched for that on the computer are the same person is important for an e-commerce site to know. And so that's that's another reason why they wanted to be able to track those bits and pieces. Now, I do know that talking about privacy and then talking about somebody, tracking somebody cross platform sounds like they're they're incompatible, but the way Google's got it set up, they're not incompatible. So they're definitely taking care, not 100%, but they're taking care of most of the privacy issues.
That's good to know. Okay, we're getting some questions around this. So why is it so important to begin running Google Analytics 4 now?
Okay. July 1st, nothing will be going to Universal Analytics. So if you don't have it up and running now, you're going to have no historical data in GA4. So for example, you can't go back, like if you've only got a couple months data there within GA4, you're not going to be able to compare year over year results because you don't have the data. You've only got that data in GA4 starting from whatever date that you got it up and running. So it's really important to go ahead and get it running now so that you do have at least a little bit of data.
So following up on that, great question. Will you be able to access the Google Analytics 4 historical data? I think she means the the Universal Analytics data once you make the switch.
Right. From everything that I've read, Google has said that we'll have that data for about 6 months in the form that it is now. What I am going to recommend that people do is to export their data. Now, how that looks, like I've read a few things about, how you can export it. If you're using Google Data Studio, which is now known as Looker Studio, you can put the information there. But what I'm telling people is, let's not think about that right now, because I feel like there's going to be better options than, downloading a bunch of stuff, 1 year at a time into a spreadsheet or whatever. So we'll know a little bit more about, how the best way to get that information into a format that we can keep a little bit later on.
Okay, so at this point, hold, because they're not going to get rid of the data immediately. But but knowing that there is not a chance at this point to take all of your Universal Analytics data into GA4 without you taking action, that's not going to be an automatic thing that happens.
Well, it's not going to happen, period, because it's a different data model. So that there's just no way to. I mean, it's basically like apples and oranges. Like you're trying to put that orange in the apple bowl, and it just doesn't work. So there won't be any way to import it into GA4.
Okay, so currently we are running both simultaneously. Yes. And we are waiting for a potentially less clunky way to get all of our data out of Universal Analytics. But it's possible that we may just need to download it all.
Right. And if it looks like that's going to be the case, I'll have a blog post on my blog on Painless Blog Analytics about, exactly step by step how you could do that.
Okay. Very helpful. We also have a help doc that we're getting ready to share. So you can run them concurrently. We're getting that out. So you can start. So if you've been holding off, we understand, but we're encouraging you, start running it now so you can start building up your data, because we're not going to have a choice.
Right.
So please go ahead.
And, I think some people, we've always heard if you've got Google Analytics installed twice on your site, it's going to double up your page views and all that. And that's not the case with this, because it is two different things. It's, GA4 is one thing, Universal is another thing. You're not going to get duplicate page views or anything like that if you have both of them running at the same time. And I think that's been, some of the concern that people may have had was that, hey, I don't want to double up on my page views.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So Jennifer's asking, I think I'm running both, but Google Analytics keeps asking me to switch. Yeah. Is there a way to confirm I've installed GA4 correctly?
And what's really funny is I get that message too. And when it says, make sure you're hooked up. And every time I do, I have a couple of my sites that it won't take it. Like I get an error every time I do that. The thing is to go into Google Analytics, and in the top, I'm trying to picture in my mind, in the top left, you've got that little drop down. If you go and look at that and see if you've got a property that has GA4 at the end of it, if you do, click on that. And if you're getting data, you're good. you're good. And you don't have to worry about that. So I don't know why they've got, an issue with that. You got to switch. The other thing is that banner at the top that says, hey, you got to switch. We're going to quit using, and I think it comes up when you're in Universal Analytics, but you have to click dismiss. And that's another one that doesn't realize that you've got the extra property.
Got it. Absolutely. Okay. And this is actually leading up. People are asking if we're going to go through step by step on this live on how to use Google Analytics 4. And we have other questions saying, I've got it installed. What do I do now? What's the next step? We know there's a learning curve in starting with Google Analytics 4. Wanted to ask you for some quick start tips or tricks, but also wanted to ask you to bring up something that we think is going to help everybody that we'll be sharing a little later on as well.
Okay. The thing that I found is that when I am in there playing around, like that is where I've learned the most. The other thing that I've done that has been super helpful for me is that you can personalize your reports and your menu. So I don't have that, let's see, acquisition, behavior monetization, or engagement monetization. I don't have that in my menu. I have Sherry's reports. It literally says Sherry's reports. So I think if you can get in there and start to get that customized, then, so that you can just see what you're used to seeing, I think that's super important. So, those would be two quick tips, I think. The other one is that I actually have, can I go ahead and talk about this now, Jenny? Okay.
Please.
I actually have a Google Analytics 4 quick start course that I have, and I'm going to have a special discount code for you guys. I've also got a more comprehensive course, but that quick start one is really going to go through and show you, hey, I know everybody that's a blogger looks at the pages that people have visited. Let me show you where to go to that. So the other thing is, we all look at where our traffic comes from. Okay, here's where you go to that. So I cover a lot of those differences that I mentioned earlier, especially in terms of things meaning different things. I cover that in this quick start course, as well as, a very detailed walkthrough of where things are and all that.
So we just happened to have a comment that came right out. She said, Betsy Eve says, okay, but I need a GA4 101 crash course. Someone who already figured out how to customize everything. So just give you the framework, how to use it. Great. Sherry just described it. Hashtag nailed it. We will be sharing that and a special discount for our audience later on in the show. So don't worry about that. We are coming that way. Okay. How have you, the reason this all started together with Sherry and I, she actually was driving through where I live in Oklahoma. We got to actually see each other in person for the first time in a couple of years, and it's been wonderful. It was so wonderful to spend time and meet her son. But Sherry, you were talking about some of the advantages that you have found in GA4. So would you talk about some of the positives here?
Yes. There is a new metric in GA4 called engagement rate. And what an engagement is it is when somebody is on your site for 10 seconds or longer, or they visit two or more page views, or there's some sort of conversion. Well, I don't have conversions on my site at all. So forget that one. But those things will tell you, how engaged the folks are on your site. So one of the things that I've been doing is looking into engagement rate for my posts. And so if I have a post that has a really high engagement rate and then one that has a really low engagement rate, then I'm going to look at those two and see, what is it about this one with a lot of engagement that this one with not very much engagement doesn't have? And what can I do to try to keep people on there? Because we know the longer people stay on our site, the more money we're going to make. So, and yay for money. So
always yay for money. Okay, we've got quite a few questions in this area. So I'm going to go ahead and come through. Jessica asked, Ellen asked, I'd love to hear if there's a reason that the analytics between Universal Analytics and GA4 seem to be so different, and they verified that it's installed properly.
I love that question. There are a whole bunch of reasons why the numbers are not going to match. So starting from, and this is probably going to blow everybody's mind, Google actually says your session number is an estimate. I mean, they say it is an estimate. Now it's a machine learning, AI, involved in it, estimate, but it is still an estimate. So that right there is one of the things. and there's just a whole slew of reasons why they're not going to match. And what I tell people is, do not waste 1 second of your time trying to get them to match, because they're not the same measures. And so just don't. I mean, if you're collecting data and you've not done a lot of customization, I think that's where the other issue comes up, is that, especially with e-commerce sites, is they may have something not set up exactly right in their conversions, and that can obviously cause the numbers not to match. But it's really, again, your apples and oranges. So, try not to worry about the fact that they're not going to match, because they're not. And believe me, I spent many hours down that rabbit hole that I will never get back. And I still don't have the answers, because there are no answers. It's just different.
They're measuring different things. They've changed, basically they changed the measuring stick.
Right.
And so trying to make the two match is just not going to happen. It's something we need to move away from. Okay.
Exactly.
We have quite a few questions. I'm going to come down to here. It's a great one from Janice. She asked, is Google Search Console affected by the switch to GA4? Anything to do in Search Console to ensure a smooth transition?
Not in Search Console. That's fine. Everything's still working just like it should be there. But for GA4, you need to hook your Search Console and your Google Analytics together again. And I think there is a link to a configuration guide that I have. There are a few things that I would highly encourage you to go in and make sure that they're all set up right. And if they're not, here's how you do it. That's a free guide, and I'm pretty sure that there's a link to that. So feel free to grab that.
Just to pause, everybody, we're going to be sharing a helpful resources guide at the end. So nobody needs to worry about trying to go find all these things on Painless Blog Analytics, which is Sherry's site where she's covering this. We will have a helpful resources guide for you. It will also have the link to the Quick Start course that we're talking about. So all of that is going to be shared at the end. No worries about that. Don't worry about trying to take it all. Yep. So fantastic. You're saying you've got some fail safes in there for people to be able to check their configurations.
Correct.
Fantastic. Love that. Okay. I'm going to scroll through. We've got a lot of questions also about applications. We understand that. We're talking about all of that in the comments, but currently we'll just need 2 weeks of the Universal Analytics if you're only running GA4 as we migrate through and start taking GA4. Obviously, we'll get there at some point. So don't worry. Don't worry about that. It's happening. All right. We already covered this a little, but talking about privacy and data considerations when we're talking about GA4, you already said we definitely need to re-hook up with Google Search Console. But are there any privacy or data considerations that we need to take into account?
The only one that I've run across and you have to find this in your admin section. If you have Google Signals turned on, you have to make sure that your privacy policy and all this stuff that you've got on your site actually matches what Google or does what Google wants it to do. I personally opted out of using Google Signals. Yes, I would get a little bit more information, but it wasn't enough information that I could take action on to want to spend the money to have an attorney double check that, because that's one of those things I would want to make sure that that somebody looked at for me. So that's really the only thing that I would say is might be of a concern.
Okay, and in following up with Catherine, and I know we'll be covering some of this in the Quick Start Guide. A question for her. She said, we're creating our GA4 profile. We've already covered that we definitely need to relink our Google Search Console. And is there any reason not to do that now?
No, go ahead and do it now.
Go ahead and do that. Great. Yeah. Is there anything else we need to do? Are there any other codes we need to embed on our site? Do we need to transfer data with other companies connected to our analytics?
No, you really don't. The in that configuration guide, there's two things that I think that are probably the most important. The first is to make sure that you have enhanced measurements turned on. That gives you access to some of those events that we were talking about earlier. And I think when I first installed GA4, it was not defaulted to on, like it was defaulted to off, and you had to go turn that on. And then at some point in time, Google switched over, and I think it is defaulted to yes now, or to being turned on. So that's one of those you probably are going to look at it and go, yep, check it's set up. So that I would, that's the first thing I would really look at. And that's the very first thing that's in that configuration guide. The other thing is to change your data retention settings. And this is going to be one of those that, listen to me say the whole thing first. Your two options in your data retention settings are 2 months and 14 months. Now, before you think you're not going to have any data past 14 months, that only impacts very specific information that is primarily used in the exploration section. That's a kind of report that you can do in GA4. And so, but I'm a big believer in give me more data instead of less. So you want to change that just because you want to at least be able to look at year over year if you're, digging into something in that exploration section.
Excellent feedback. Okay. We've got some people wanting some of the similar functionality that they're used to in Universal Analytics. So we're just going to go down a little checklist here. Okay, Leah says, currently I use Universal Analytics to see day of traffic. Does Google Analytics 4 offer this option too?
Yes, there is real time in GA4, just like in Universal. The big difference, there's a couple of differences, but the big one is that GA4 is looking at the last 30 minutes versus Universal, which is only looking at the last 5 minutes. So, so that's a big one. The other thing is, and you might not run into this too terribly often, but if you're trying to look at traffic over the last 48 hours and really do like a deep dive into your data for the last 2 days, I would hold off on doing that. And the reason for that is that all these events and stuff, Google stores in different tables and databases, and this gets way beyond my knowledge, but they're stored in different places and they don't dump all of it into analytics all at one time. So it might be, this little bit of data is coming from over here and it comes, right away. And this one is batch. So it might be, an hour before that gets over there. But at the end of 48 hours, everything is in there that should be. But just know that if you're looking at things for the last 48 hours and there's some stuff that doesn't look right, it's probably because of that.
Okay, that's great note to have. Vanessa says, will you be able to download a GA4 dashboard like you could with Universal? I remember purchasing one for Pinterest years ago.
Yeah, I'm sad and crying over that, but no, you can't. Now, if you use Google Data Studio or Looker Studio, yes, that you can still do that. But unfortunately, there's no way to share the dashboard or the actual report where you could import it into your GA4 and not have to set it up yourself. There's no way to do that. And I tell you, I'm surprised that they haven't fixed that, because there are people that are, that run agencies and have hundreds and hundreds of clients, and they're having to reproduce every single report in every single one of their, their clients' GA4 accounts.
And maybe, is that as of yet? Do you think we should hold on to hope that they may change it?
At this period of time, I don't know. I really don't. I'd love it if they did, because I could sell the reports and you guys could just import them, but unfortunately, I just don't know at this period.
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to grab this question really quickly, because while we are still working with our engineers are still working on things, Jessica, I can answer this one because there's such a difference in the Google Analytics 4 versus Universal Analytics numbers. Will we see our dip in a rep? Will we see? Absolutely not. So that's only impact the analytics are only impacting their reporting, not what you're paid on. So it won't impact that at all. So just letting you know, that's not something to be concerned about. Sherry, anything to contribute to that?
Yeah, I actually had somebody ask me that a few days ago, and I told them, I said, we get just to give you an example, and at one point in time, I think I changed themes and forgot to put analytics on the new theme. So for one day, it looked like I had 0 traffic and I still got money, because I know the ads are in a server thing over here and not based on, a Google Analytics number. So it's not even, it's going to impact, it could impact the calculation of your RPM, but not how many dollars that go into your bank. And I'd rather have the dollars going into my bank than an RPM that can't go to my bank. So
exactly, the dollars will still be there. It would just impact reporting in the same way to where doubling your analytics would not double your revenue in the past. It would screw up how it looked, but no, it would not give you double revenue. So great questions. Keep them coming. Okay, we've got Jordan said, how do you think Google Analytics 4 will affect tools like SEMrush? Will we still be able to access historical data there?
I have no idea, to be honest with you. The thing I think a lot of people don't realize is that when SEMrush, Ahrefs, all those companies like that, a lot of what they're doing is just guesses. I mean, granted, very educated guesses, but Google's not giving them a bunch of data to put into their system. So, I'm sure it's going to impact it just because it's different, but not because of a lack of historical data.
Fantastic. Kate says, what happens if we wait until the last minute to switch over? Will it still be a big deal?
Not really, because you just won't have any historical data. And so for people that are really analytics oriented and really do a lot of comparing what happened last month to this month or what happened last year to this year, it definitely will be a big deal. And I know for my blog, my Cub Scout blog is very seasonal. So I can't compare this month to last month because the months are just different. I have to look at this August versus last August. So for a blog like mine, yeah, it's going to be a big deal, but otherwise it's not going to be a big deal.
But the recommendation is and just saying, rather than saying switch right now for Mediavine publishers, we're running them concurrently. So we're not stopping Universal Analytics yet. We're going to be sending out guides on how to do that. But you want to start compiling that historical data as soon as you can. It's not going to hurt anything. It's just a good idea to at least have it running in the background, even if and we understand, Kate, sometimes you're not ready to dive into a whole new system. Totally understandable. But might as well just get it running so that you're compiling that data. So
exactly.
Okay. Additional questions we have coming on here. I know, Sherry, when we were together, you mentioned, what are some of your favorite features? And when we were together, you mentioned that you were able to have some really great insight on your phone, which was something that you weren't experiencing as much with Universal Analytics. So tell us.
Well, for the phone, not necessarily. Yeah.
Okay.
Not necessarily. As a matter of fact, the Google Analytics app I don't think is that awesome for GA4. I think it's much better to look on your computer for that. But there are a lot of cool things that I love. So one of the things that we can track is outbound clicks. So if we have a link in one of our blog posts that goes to another site somewhere, I'm not talking about interlinking, but an outbound click, we can track that. And so there's three things I think that are awesome about that. First of all, and I might have shared this example with you. With my Cub Scout blog, I have, links out to the Boy Scouts of America's site, their main site. Well, there's one that, like, my top one in terms of number of clicks out is to that. And that link is pretty far up on the blog post. So, and I don't know if the people are clicking over and then coming back. So I'm going to move that link down a little bit further just so that I keep people on my page a little bit longer. So that's one thing that you can do with that particular information. The other thing is it's going to really help with your affiliate stuff. So if you're getting a lot of clicks, but not very many conversions, you're going to want to maybe do a little bit more pre-selling or describing the benefits of that, whatever that affiliate product is, in your post. But if you're not getting very many clicks, you might need to change your anchor text. So, there's a lot of little things that we can do like that to really, improve our business.
And thank you so much for tying it to really actionable things that actually make a difference in your bottom line. That's so key. We all love, I don't know if we all love data, but we know you love data.
Yeah,
and data is so helpful and useful when we're making actual business decisions. So love that. Okay, we're going to scroll back up here. Steve and Annette want to know, will you cover how to save reports, specifically organic traffic specs by page?
How to save reports. I mean, I'm not sure if you're talking about, I ran the report this month and I want to save that particular report for March. If that's the question, you can download it just like we can in UA. You can either download it to a CSV or you can download it as a PDF. But if you're talking about, you create the report and then you customize it or whatever and then save it, yes, you can do that. But I think the thing that trips people up is they may have done the customization and saved the report, but then they don't see it in the menu. And that's why you have to add it to that menu to be able to see it there. There below the report section on this my left-hand side, there's I think it's a folder icon called library, and that's where all of your saved reports go. And that's where you can go to edit your menu as well.
Okay. So it's just a slightly different configuration, but you still can get the effect happening. Okay,
Exactly.
Great question from Kelly a little while ago. Sorry for cutting you off there. Kelly says, I'm ready for July 1st, but do you actually think it will happen in July or be delayed? I believe she might be referring to the notorious cookie delay that has been punted several times. Sherry, what do you think?
I think GA4, I think they're shutting off UA at the end of the day, June 30th. Now, a few months ago, there was kind of a rumor going around that, oh yeah, now it's going to be 2024. And it is, but only for those people who use, the name of it escapes, Google 360, which is the paid version of Google Analytics. And I know I don't pay for Google Analytics. I don't know anybody who does. So those people are going to get an extra year, but those of us who aren't giving Google any money for this, we're stuck with the deadline. So yes, I think it's going to happen.
All right. Well, so it sounds like, and there's no harm in running them both at the same time. That's not a thing at all. Okay. Coming down to, we've got a lot of people saying that they are really making use of that year over year data.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have anything to make that a little less sting, to mitigate that sting of not having it?
To be honest with you, no. And the problem is, because it's a different model, even if we did, it may not mean anything, because again, you had an apple last year, you got an orange this year. And so that, and I'm one of the, like I said, I'm one of those that's definitely a year over year person. And that's why I think, having it set up back when they first started telling us to set it up, which I didn't do right away. So I'm definitely not throwing any stones here, but, I think that was key, is if you needed that year over year data, you really needed to have installed that or set it up a year ago.
That being said,
mm-hmm.
There's no time like the present.
Right. If you don't,
the sooner you get it going.
Yeah. And I'd love, Jenny, if we could just, folks, if y'all do not have GA4 set up, put some sort of, frowny face or something in the comments.
Yeah.
I'd love to just see about how many people are not ready to go.
If you're willing to admit it, this is a no judgment zone.
No judgment
zone. It's okay.
Yes.
Nobody's going to throw shade. In the meantime, can you use UTM tracking links with GA4?
Yes, you can. Now, the one kind of caveat around that is that Google is now doing something called thresholding. And again, that's just part of the privacy stuff. So I'm going to use the UTM example. So let's say I'm doing, a UTM code where I've got, I can't even think of an example now. Maybe a friend of mine shared my link in her email. So okay. I maybe put, Kelly's email or something like that as my code in the UTM. And so if only a few people have clicked over, I'm not going to see that in my list of the campaign in the campaign report. I'm not going to see that because again, I don't know how Google thinks I could figure out who that was, but that's their whole rationale, is that, they're trying to protect people's privacy. On my site, and I don't know if this is different from every site, but it seemed to be around 75 or 100 was sort of the magic number when it would show up. Now, there is a way around that. And it's what I've done is gone into some settings, and this is getting pretty technical, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but you can go in, turn it on and off so that you can see that, turn it on so you can see it, and then go back and turn it off so you can't see it. And that impacts your stats slightly for that little bit of time, but nothing too bad. There's just some stuff that would not be included. And again, it gets really technical, and I'm not going to go into all that detail. Nobody wants to hear all that. So,
I mean, I think we have quite a few who would love to hear, but they can get more of that on your website. So
exactly.
We've got some frowny faces of people who aren't set up.
Yeah.
Quick question here. So what I would love is we've got Kitchen Counter Chronicles. They have it set up, but it's not collecting any data. So it's likely we've missed a step.
It depends on how long it's been since you set it up. I mean, we've always heard, something takes 48 hours and it really only takes 2. But I've seen many instances where it does really take the whole 48 hours for you to start seeing data. If you're still not, I mean, if it's been longer than that and you're not seeing data, then yeah, there's something. But if you have Universal on your site and you use the, I think it's like Setup Wizard or Setup Genius or something like that, then it should be using the Universal Analytics tags that are on your site. So if it's not, and it's been more than 48 hours, I mean, that's something I can dig into. So if you're interested in, working with me on that, give me a shout.
Fantastic. We'll be sharing those links later. Sherry, so let's say that we're ready. You've at least talked us into setting them up to run concurrently. What are your steps here?
To do after you've got it set up?
To set up Universal Analytics first, just to get GA4 going.
Yeah, it's really easy. I mean, I think you guys will be shocked at how easy it is. So when you're going to go into your admin panel, and you know how we have those 3 columns in Universal, and it's your account, property, and then view. Go to that middle one, the property, and the first thing you want to do is actually click on the little down arrow and make sure that you don't have it set up already, because I think some people do, you just don't know it. And Google did say that they were going to start setting up a basic installation for folks. I've not talked to anybody who had that happen, so I'm not sure if they've gone through with that or if that's been done, but make sure you don't have one already. If you don't, then you can it's that first option. And again, it's GA4 Setup Wizard, Genius, Genie. I don't know. It's the first one. And then it'll walk you through the steps.
Fantastic. Okay. Now,
one more thing. I do have a video that walks you through that. So I don't know that we have that in the list of stuff. So
we can find it and add it later if we need to. Yeah, we'll get it added
later.
Okay. So now you have it. Now what?
Okay. Give it the 48 hours to start getting things in there. And then just try not to freak out when you first open the interface up, because it does look so different. So I think that's the big thing. You can also buy my quick start course, and I'll talk you through what all those things mean. And that's really what I would suggest that you do. Buy that quick start course, because it really does walk you through a lot of stuff. It doesn't get into a lot of the customization and a lot of the how to apply what you're seeing like my comprehensive course does, but it's going to get you up and running in GA4.
Okay, we have some feedback happening here. Sarah says, I'm in the terrified of breaking my site boat and unapologetically paid someone to set it up. Outsourcing is not something to be ashamed of.
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right. We have Colette says, I've opened it several times and closed it again. Well, hopefully
me too. Me
too.
No. And to be totally honest with you, there've been a few times when I've gone in, I'll be in a rush and I've gone in to look at something, and because you're kind of, when you're a little bit frazzled when you're in a hurry anyway, I couldn't remember exactly where to find what I was looking for, and so I switched back over to Universal to look at it. So yeah, no, again, no shade at all for doing that.
And what you just said made me think that maybe it's a great idea to start playing with it now if you have the time. Exactly, so we still have the training wheels. You don't have to be stumbling around in the dark only. So
I didn't think about that, but you're absolutely right.
Fantastic. Okay. Great assist here from Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
GA4 setup assistant. We got it. All right. Veronica says, I set mine up last year in April and it's collecting data, so hopefully it's set up well. I haven't looked at it since.
If it's collecting data, you're good. That's the important thing. And yeah, I'm glad you got it set up that far back. So, you're going to have that year over year. So
amazing. Okay. Enriqueta says, Sherry, is your course for bloggers or e-commerce people too?
Mostly bloggers. And really for bloggers. As a matter of fact, I've talked to a couple of people about, hey, do should they buy my course? And if they are e-commerce folks, I tell them no, just because I don't have enough e-commerce information in there to make it worth their while.
Thank you for that transparency. Juliet said, I watched a free course GA4 for SEO by SEMrush and it taught me everything I needed to know more. That's a great and helpful post. Okay, let's actually talk resources. Let's go through step by step here what we're sharing. We know with your Quick Start course, what are we going to get?
The Quick Start course is going to go into a lot of detail about some definitions and things, because you really do need to understand that. And just as an example of one of the things that's kind of crazy is that there's 3 source medium measures out there now. We only had one before. So for example, and I'm getting off track a little bit, but I think this is good information for folks.
Okay. Sounds good.
Source medium. Okay. So there's source medium, user source medium, and session source medium. And session source medium is the closest to what we think of in Universal as being, all my traffic and where they came from. User source medium is only tracks the first time somebody comes to your site, where did they come from? And that's the only time that is tracked. Then the plain source medium has to do with if you have some sort of conversion on your site, then that is triggered. Y'all, the first time I tried to do a report where I was looking at source medium and I got nothing, like it was blank, and I was totally flipping out that day. And then I realized that's what it was. It is only triggered to collect that data if there is a conversion. So the course the Quick Start course goes into a lot of that information like that, just so that you understand, because if you don't know that, even if I teach you how to, where to find reports and stuff, you may be looking at the wrong thing. So it goes into that. There's a lot of information about that. And then it does a pretty deep dive into the reports and what's there. And here's the things I think you should look at, as a blogger, the important things there. So it really walks through that, talks about the functionality there. You'll see overview reports and standard reports. There's a difference between those. So I do a lot of information about, what those are, because I think that's important for us to know as well. So I dig into that. And so I don't teach customization in that Quick Start course, but I do teach, just to get you guys going in that.
Absolutely. Okay. So give us the lowdown on the course.
Okay. The course is $129, but I have a special Mediavine discount. It is, you get 25% off, which makes it less than $100. And the code will be posted everywhere, but it's MV25. I think that's pretty easy to remember. So
yeah. MV25, fantastic. So course for a Quick Start guide, less than $100 and very easy to access. Sherry shared everything that's in there. So we are going to go ahead with that. We've got some questions here. Quickly, I wanted to jump over to Matt's question. Can you provide some thoughts on what to do with web story segments that are already set up to direct web story traffic to a different place?
To be honest with you, I'm waiting on Mediavine to figure that out. And then because seriously, the Mediavine did a great job of telling us how to set up web stories in Universal Analytics. And I feel like that's, I don't know if Mediavine's going to do it or if we'll find some other resource for that. But unfortunately, the answer is no, I can't tell you that right now. So,
okay.
But yeah.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that, guys. And we will ask in around. Currently, our primary focus is on the dashboard and applications, but do appreciate that question and the nudge. Okay. We are going to go. Oh, we just have some great feedback here. Love this. Miranda said, I just used the GA4 Setup Assistant and set up GA4 in under 20 seconds. Now to integrate and play around. Thanks for the nudge, Sherry. We've got other people saying it's taking less than a minute. So love that. Great. We've got one more follow-up question from Leah. She says, opening internal links in a new window. Is that still a bounce in GA4?
It was never a bounce in UA. I know a lot of people thought it was, but it was not. It was not a bounce. Google knows if it's just being open in a new window. So yeah, it wasn't then and it's not now.
Great to hear. Okay, let's get those helpful resources docs out there. We've got a ton of links from Sherry on her website. We talked about the, I believe it's the free, basically check yourself. I can't remember what you called it.
Configuration guide.
The free configuration guide is available. We also have links to the course. Let's go ahead and share the code. Let's plaster it everywhere and share those links so that everybody can get access to what they need here going away. Sherry, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us where people can find you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
Always awesome.
I have a Facebook page for Painless Blog Analytics. You can find me there. But really, the best way to find me if you have questions or you need some help is just to email me, and it's Sherry, Sherry, at painlessbloganalytics.com.
Fantastic. All right. Those helpful resources docs are dropping in the comments everywhere. Sherry at Painful Blog Analytics and a Mediavine publisher, thank you for sharing your wonderful knowledge.
Hold up. You said Painful Blog Analytics.
Oh my goodness. Talk about
I'm sure there are a lot of people that think it is.
Painless, everyone.
Painless,
painless. And Gina just shared Sherry's email address. The helpful links are all out there. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll be back with more content soon. And Sherry, have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.